Hey everyone, happy Friday. So we're doing this a little bit early today. Or really early. We are about 4 or 5 hours earlier than what we normally do this. But later I'm going to be busy, so I can't do a live stream later on. So I figured get it out of the way, get it done now, and then that way we'll have a nice weekend to go through. But we have quite a few things to talk about today. We got obviously Bitcoin miners and how they perform today along with Bitcoin. Can Bitcoin get to 160,000? There might be some ways it can do that. And then we have Bitdeer and Hive update for April production. We also have some good news from Coinbase, Facebook, PayPal, and then we'll also take a look at Tera Wolf and their quarterly results. We'll just kind of go over it relatively quickly, and then we'll get into Q&A. So as always, you guys know the drill. Not financial advice, for entertainment only. Do your own research. Full disclosure below that. Hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously, and it doesn't cost you anything for hitting the like button. So if you wouldn't mind, please do that. And let's take a look at what happened here with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still trading on the day. It hasn't finished out the day yet. But if we look at it here, it is currently down just a little bit. It's down 0.28%. It was up a little bit higher today. We did get a little bit higher than yesterday. We got to a high of 104,352, but it's been kind of flat more or less during the day. Miners were kind of all over the place today as well. Markets were actually down a little bit, flat more or less you could say. But the miners, they were just all over the place today. Some were up as high as 12, 14, 15%, and then they came back down, being almost flat or negative, then they came back up. So it was a wild day on the markets. For the miners, you can see this on the charts here, unlike Bitfarms here. You can see it got too much higher. It got up to $1.15 for the high, and it closed at $1.08. So it was up just a little bit here, up 1.89%. Bitdeer was up 4.28% towards the end of the day. Here was up higher. Cypher was just pretty much down throughout the day. It was down 4.49%. Cleanspark was up at 12%. You can see that here. It did get close to finishing at above the 100 simple day moving average, which would have been nice. So we might battle with that next week as well. So if we can close above that, that would be nice. Get it above that, then close above the 200, and then we're off to the races potentially with that one. But it got to a high today of 988, so pretty good there. Came back down a little bit as the day progressed. CORZ was down a little bit here, 1.38%. Hive was up just a little bit, 0.55%. HUT was down 1.98%. IREN was up 2.18%. Mara had a great day today. It was up 10.29%. It got higher. It was up a high of $16.15. Came back down and then went back up throughout the day. Riot was up just a little bit here, 0.47. Wolf was down 8.79%. It was up higher at a certain point, and then it came back down. It did obviously disappoint on not only earnings but revenue. So earnings were down. Negative 16 estimate was negative 7 there. Surprise of 9 cents. Revenue was down 6.87 million from what people were thinking of the estimate. So that's why the stock was maybe down a little bit here now. MicroStrategy was up just a little bit, 0.4%. Who else? Well, Galaxy was down actually 3.54. Coin was down 3.48. Similar was down 1.28, and that was kind of just with Bitcoin being flat on the day. I think that's the reason why for that one. Small miners were down for the most part except for Canon. Canon was up 14.89%. Had a pretty good day. Did we have anything that happened interesting today on it? Nothing about Canon here, so it was just kind of pumping up a little bit here. Kind of getting beaten down here. Yeah, I got a new 52-week low on it last week and this past week, and it's starting to finally bounce a little bit here. The ETFs for Bitcoin miners were up just a little bit here today. Best performer was BitQ. And that is about it. So let's take a look at what's going on here with some of the news stories that we have here in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still up 9.25% on May, which is good. We may end up going even further as well throughout May. May might be actually a pretty good month for us if it continues going the way it is, but we'll see. And then in one of the stories, we're going to talk about how Bitcoin can get to 160,000 here this probably the next, I would say, 3 to 6 months or so. But let's continue on here. Bitcoin ETF inflows. I don't have any data here for today yet. We did have a positive inflow yesterday, which is good, and BlackRock has continued their buying spree here with that ETF, so that's good there. All right, a couple of the stories that we do have here. So Coinbase launches 24/7 trading for BTC and Ethereum futures in the United States. That's great news, right? More adoption, more ways for people to trade Bitcoin and everything else. So that's good, right? Adoption, we want adoption, and this is part of the adoption process as well. We also have here Facebook or Meta. Breaking 1.5 trillion Meta seeking to launch crypto wallets and payments for 3 billion users. This is from Fortune. Only a matter of time before Bitcoin, all right, gets also included in there. And that's going to be huge. They have access to a lot of people. 3 billion, that's half the population, or close to half the population of the world. If only a small percentage of those people take advantage of this, that's going to be a lot of transactions happening, maybe not on Bitcoin directly, but on Bitcoin Lightning Network, but that's still going to translate over to some transactions being done on the blockchain for Bitcoin. So that's going to be good. That should increase maybe the transaction fees a little bit. That would bode well for the miners as well. So that's good news. Adoption here happening some more. Next good story that we have here is former PayPal vice president says Bitcoin Lightning Network will welcome dozens of digital banks and wallets and enable hundreds of millions of people to receive Bitcoin-powered payments by the end of Q3 this year. So that's happening in basically, I would say, 5 months or something like that. So again, more adoption, more ways for people to use Bitcoin to transact in Bitcoin and things like that. That bodes well, again, for the miners and for Bitcoin price in general as well. So great news there. And then finally, our last story here is on Bitcoin. How can it get to 160,000 here? Well, this is from Julian Biddle. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name right, CFA. Lots of you have been asking for the updated global M2 versus Bitcoin chart. Well, here it is. And yes, it still tells the same story. We're going higher, right? So how much higher are we going? All right, we bottomed out here. We are right about there. Based on this chart, if Bitcoin continues to follow the M2 global supply, we are going to be getting to about 160,000, and we could actually go above that a little bit before everything is done, depending on where the M2 supply continues to go. If it continues to go up, well, then Bitcoin's probably going to follow that as well, but it's going to be delayed, as always. So we could see 160,000 this year easily, I think, with Bitcoin, and then we could possibly even go higher than that. We're possibly looking at maybe like 180 to 200,000 by the end of the year completely. If not, it should be maybe early 2026, potentially. So there's one way that we could get there. The other way is just continuation of having these good things happening for Bitcoin adoption, where we're seeing the states adopt it. We're seeing companies adopt it, countries potentially as well. Everything else, supply crunch on the exchanges for OTC and just regular exchanges. We're seeing all of this stuff playing out right now. And then if we get the tariff deals done in a matter of good time, I think that's going to also pump things up for us here. So this will be really, really good for Bitcoin going forward here. And it's finally going to possibly happen where we bounce nicely here, I think. But time will tell on that one. But this is how we could get to 160,000 plus this year still, if not very early next year as well. All right, so that's it on that one. Let's take a look at the stories that we do have here on the miners. We got 3 of them to cover: Bitdeer, Hive, and Tera Wolf as far as operations and Q1 results. So this is Bitdeer here. Bitdeer has the Seal A1 miners, 3.7 exahash, are energized with remaining 0.1 exahash to be energized in Q2 of 2025. So obviously this quarter that we're in. You guys can read over all these details down below. I'm not going to go through it all here. This is kind of interesting here. HPC AI. Discussions are ongoing with multiple development partners and potential end users for selected large-scale sites in the U.S. for HPC AI. And they actually did mention which site that is down here. Here it is, Clarington, Ohio. Pause Bitcoin mining related construction at 570 megawatt Clarington, Ohio site. Phase 1 and 2 as a result of advancing HPC AI discussions. So that's kind of interesting. They could possibly be like the next one that has a relatively good deal that with HPC AI. Don't know who it's going to be. Could be a smaller entity, could be a larger entity, we don't know. But we obviously saw the stock kind of pump here on yesterday a little bit. I think it was up, what was it, up 14% yesterday? Let's take a look at Bitdeer here really quick on the chart here. Bitdeer, yeah, I mean, you can see here it was up, 19%. So it did really good here. So is that the reason why? Because this was getting, the word was getting out there that that was the case? Possibly, and that's why I think this one actually pumped yesterday more so than it did today on the news that was coming out here today. So that's kind of interesting there. That's going to be interesting for the other miners as well, right? If they can get something going there, that kind of leaves one less customer available to the other miners that are trying to get something going. Financing. In April 2025, Bitdeer entered into a loan agreement with Metrics Port Group, a related party of the company, for a financing facility of up to $200 million, and loans drawn under the facility bear a variable interest rate equal to 9% plus market-based reference rate. Each drawdown is repayable in fixed monthly installments over 24 months and in term and is secured by the pledge of Seal miners. So they're basically using the Seal miners as collateral on there. And yeah, so that's kind of good there. At least they're not pulling on the ATM, or at least maybe less so. Management commentary here. In April 2025, we successfully energized 70 megawatts and 132 megawatts of power capacity at our tidal Norway expansion and Jigmaling, Bhutan sites, respectively, bringing Bitdeer's global available power capacity to nearly 1.1 gigawatts, said Matt Kong, Chief Business Officer at Bitdeer. By the end of June 2025, we expect to energize the remaining 473 megawatts at tidal and Jingming, increasing our global available power capacity to 1.6 gigawatts, of which more than half will be located outside of the United States. Our international footprint enhances our operational flexibility, particularly as we navigate evolving global trade dynamics. So I think they're moving a lot of the stuff overseas, so they're not impacted by the tariffs from the United States on bringing in ASICs that way. In the near term, we are prioritizing deployments of our seal miners, A2s in Norway and Bhutan, which we expect will drive our self-mining hash rate to over 40 exahash in 2025. So again, they're concentrating more on the outside of the United States facilities to bring that hash rate up, which might be a good play right now based on the tariffs. Further, we made the strategic decision to pause Bitcoin mining related construction at our 570 megawatt site in Clarington, Ohio, due to advancing discussions with multiple development partners and end users for HPCI. The company maintains full optionality, though, to reassess and resume the build out of Bitcoin mining at a later date. This I like, right? So they are in pretty good talks with somebody for HPCI there. If it doesn't work out, they'll just go right back into Bitcoin mining, right? So that's I think the right way to do it. We see quite a few companies that are just pausing completely Bitcoin mining increases because they are trying to get some HPCI deals going on there, and they should have possibly stated the same thing, right? If we don't get a deal or something like that with somebody in the next several months or something like that, half a year to a year, whatever, we're going to continue on with Bitcoin mining, right? Instead of saying we're pausing and we're concentrating on just HPCI. I think this is a better way to go. All right, production-wise, self-mining was at 12.4 exahash for them. They mined 166 Bitcoin here. Bitcoin held increased a little bit to 1,246. And then there's all their sites that they have here. They got a lot in the pipeline happening for them as well, which is kind of nice to see from them. And that's why the stock has kind of maybe done a little bit good here. But it definitely got beaten down from the beginning of the year, probably more so than others. I think it was down like 75% from where it started out, or where it actually topped out at, to the bottom here. So it definitely got kicked in the groin quite hard, just as some of the other miners did as well. But looking at them right now, they have about 165 million shares outstanding, market cap 2.3 billion, stock price $14.12. Performance over the last 12 weeks, from 12 weeks, was not good, 33% down from there. 8 weeks ago, they were up 6%. From 4 weeks, they're up 38%. And then last week, not this week, but last week, they were up 4.18%. They're going to be up nicely this week as well. So that's going to improve possibly their 12-week time frame as well. Current hash rate, like we said, was 12.4. Future hash rate of 11.7. They're going to be getting more miners. I just don't know how many more miners. They're saying 40 exahash. Probably could include those in there in my numbers, but we'll see. Bitcoin HODL is 1,246. That's valued at 128 million right now. That's 5.5% of their market cap, and each share basically has 78 cents of HODL value in it. You can see production here has gone up, which is nice, 166. It's back to where they were back in October, basically September of last year. So that was good. Revenue also increased quite nicely here. That's the highest they've had revenue-wise. April was 14.35 million from just their self-mining. That's the highest since April of last year, actually, which was 17.46. And their BTC HODL here continues to increase. They've started, probably earlier on, they've started the HODL. I just didn't have the data for it. Once they started reporting the HODL, then we started including it here as well. For them in hash rate, you can see they're at 12.4 right now. I probably should update the chart here a little bit on this. I'll do that later on to make it a little bit clearer to see. But they have been growing their hash rate since, I would say, November of last year, which is nice. The seal miners are coming in, and they're getting those things energized. Bitcoin sold, they only sold about 76 Bitcoin here for the month. And their BTC per exahash efficiency did improve to 13.4. Much better operations here than we've seen in the past, at least. Bitcoin sold value was about 6.57 million. We'll get down to some of these numbers here in a second. As far, institutions. Got to talk about institutions here. Institutions did increase to 167, or didn't increase. They stayed the same. And shares actually went down, owned by institutions, to 33.85 million, and percentage went down to 23.64. This is so for like one, I think there's another one right now that we're going to talk about next that had actually shares and institutions either be flat or go down on them. But we did have also the buy ratings stay the same as strong at 8 for the buy, and 0 holds, 0 underperforms, 0 sells. Price target wise, we went down to 26 from 31. The average went down to 18.38 from 22.05, and the low went down to 12 from $15, right? So that's, we've only seen a couple of those happen here recently in the last month that has changed on us. Going down here, the miners that got installed here. Let me see, what did I install here? 12.4 April. Here we go. So we installed these miners here, which are the remaining 2,000 or 200 terahash miners, and the new Steel Miner 2s, 230 terahash there. So that's the ones that we're using in there for those. And the rest of the miners were operating for about 25.12 days, which is much better than they were operating at March, which was 22 days roughly or so. So that's how we got to the 14.3 million in revenue for them. Based on that, and plus the revenue that they're getting from their self or hosting side of business, I have in between, this is going from April, yeah, and then we're adding another 83 million or 8.3 million a month roughly from hosting times 12 months. I have in between 1232 and 1848. They are currently at 1412, so I think they're kind of fairly valued right now. I wouldn't say that they're overvalued, I'd say they're fairly. These numbers are based on their last 3 quarters and the current quarter that we are in, which current quarter is actually for March ending. So if you look at here, I'm using the data for the prior months. We could probably increase that up here. And yeah, that still gets us 974 to 1460, roughly. So I do think that they're kind of fairly valued right now as it is. But they do have a lot of growth. And then if they get an HPCI deal, that is going to bode well for them also going forward, and probably could pump the stock up even higher than what I have them here, depending on the deal that they get. Now, so what do they got to do? Continue to build out, continue to grow as best they can, get to 40 exahash as fast as they can also. By the end of the year, that's going to be great. They'll put them up with some of the top miners like Mara, Cleanspark, IREN. That'll get them close. I think Riot's a little bit. Riot's going to be right around there as well. So like the top 5 miners or so as far as hash rate is concerned. Okay, so yeah, keep up the good work, keep up the build out, and we'll see how they do going forward here. All right, next is going to be Hive here. Hive is kind of interesting as well. They stopped providing the updates for their HODL amount. So I reached out to them on X, sent a tweet out or post to Hive and to, what's his name there? Not Aiden, the other gentleman there. I'm trying to Frank Holmes, to see if they could provide it. I haven't heard anything back from them. We'll see if they provide any information on that. But based on not having any information, I'm guessing that they sold everything. Maybe they sold a large portion of it, maybe. I don't know. We just don't have the data on it. But here's what we got to go with. So rapid hash rate expansion. As of today, Hive reports a total Bitcoin mining hash rate of 7.3 exahash. So that's as of today, right? Not at the end of April. A 10% increase in peak hash rate realized last month of 6.6 exahash, driven by the energization of its first 100 megawatt hydro-powered facility in Paraguay. Key highlights here: Bitcoin mined was 102 Bitcoin, 3.4 BTC per day, or 15.8 BTC per exahash. Mining efficiency, average hash rate of 6.5 exahash during the month, with fleet efficiency of 20.7 joules per terahash. Peak hash rate reached 6.6 exahash. And I think I'm actually using a little bit higher than that for them, based on what they reported here. And this is kind of interesting here, right? So this is executive commentary from Frank Holmes. He says, our disciplined capital allocation, including the redeployment of 30 megawatts of buzz miners, has already saved us 27 million in capex, accelerating our near-term growth. So the buzz miners are the older generation machines. They're like 110 terahash machines, based on the data that I could have on them in the past. So I had to go actually into my spreadsheets and pull that stuff out, because at one point they were offline or unplugged for a while. But they plugged them back in here in Paraguay. So that's kind of interesting that they're doing that. Continuing on here, we are pleased to announce that construction of Phase 2 is well underway, which will utilize the Bitmain S21 Plus Hydro ASIC miners and the Bitmain Hydro Ant Space containers for our Phase 2 infrastructure. And Waguzu have shipped, which will bring online our second 100 megawatts in Paraguay and are expected to land in early June. So those are on the way. Hive's Phase 2 expansion in Paraguay will add an additional 6.5 exahash of Bitmain S21 Hydro Plus ASICs, bringing our total hash rate to 18 exahash by the end of summer. So really, really good growth there. That should help with some of the costs that they have there. And then this is kind of interesting picture. I don't know if I would have put this out there. I don't know what you guys think, but check out this armed security detail. And this was just to bring in the ASICs here. Security team overseeing the safe transport of Hive's Bitcoin mining equipment to Waguzu. That doesn't instill a lot of confidence in the government there and the country, I guess you could say, by having to show that you're having to use security guards to transport ASIC machines to your location. Was there a fear that those things are going to get stolen on the way there? Was there going to be a heist on ASICs? Right? I would have probably kept this out. I probably wouldn't have not reported this. To me, it just seems a little off-putting. Let me know what you guys think. Going down here, the site looks good though. This looks really great. You can see these pads here. These pads are for the containers that are going to be housing the Bitmain miners that are hydro miners, right? So they got quite a few of those coming in here being built out. I mean, you got 3, 6, 9, 12, 24 pads so far. You got another 27 there, and then you got more coming in. So you got 27, 30, 33, 36. And another 6, so that's 42 pads. You got some pads coming in here as well, probably. They're going to have a lot of pads for these containers. They're going to have a lot of containers that are going to be, obviously, using the Ant miners from Bitmain that are hydro-cooled. Okay, so that's kind of cool there. And then at the market offering, so for the 3 months period ended March 31st, the company issued 25,206,407 common shares from the October 2024 ATM, pursuant to the October 2024 ATM equity program for gross proceeds of 96.9 million of Canadian dollars or 67.4 US dollars. The October 2024 ATM shares were sold at prevailing market prices for an average price per October 2024 ATM. So don't know if they sold all of that in the first quarter or if it was from that October. So we'll get an update on as far as what their share count is when they actually report their quarterly results here, happening probably. When is that? I think theirs is next. Well, no, they haven't reported yet, so I don't know when they're going to have that coming out. Okay, but that is it for that one. Let's take a look at the numbers here that we have on Hive. Hive, as of numbers that we do have for them, is about 155 million shares. Stock price is $1.84. Market cap 285 million. They're way undervalued, but there might be reasons for it, right? But we'll talk about those reasons here in a second. Performance over the last 12 weeks has not been too great. 37% down from 12 weeks ago. They're only up 2.9 from 8 weeks ago. They're up 20%, almost 21 from 4 weeks ago. And then last week they were basically flat. I do have them at about 6.8 exahash currently. Future hash rate, we have them at about 11.3. They need to buy some more miners to get to the 18 exahashes they're targeting there. So they do have growth there. Bitcoin HODL, like I said, I marked it as 0 because they didn't report it. If they report something on that, I'll get it updated for you guys. And then Bitcoin production was only 102, so they're down about 6 Bitcoin from March. We had one less day, so that's still not too bad. But they did install some more machines there, so they did curtail a little bit more than they did the prior month there. Monthly mining revenue down to 8.82 from 9.19, so that's not too bad. And then Bitcoin HODL, obviously they've been selling here more and more recently. And like I said, I don't know how much the HODL they have right now, so they're at 0 currently. Hash rate growth, nice hash rate growth here. It's been slow, but it's been growing, so that's at least good. They haven't been really keeping up with the network hash rate growth over the past year, but at least they're looking to grow a lot more this year. So that's good. On that one, how much they sold Bitcoin possibly at the end of the month here. And then BTC per exahash efficiency went down to 14.89, which is still really good. I think this still brings them as the best miner here right now. That I would have to look through the numbers, but I think they were like top 3 at least. On efficiency wise, on that one, how much the value of the Bitcoin sold there was possibly. Going down here to institutions. This is the other one that had institutions actually decrease on them. So down to 163 million, or 163 institutions. Shares actually went up though to 41.21 million. And then the percentage owned by institutions went down to 26.78. So that could be also a result of dilution, right? Which would bring in more shares, which would dilute, which would obviously dilute the percentage as well. We still have 5 strong buy ratings, 3 buy ratings, 0 holds, 0 performance, 0 sells. Price targets stayed the same for the high at $11. The average actually went down to $6.81, and the low went down to $4 here on that one. And then as far as the miners here, like I told you, I had to bring these miners back in. If you can see the chart here, these were down on my row 43, and then everything else above that is like older, like 90 terahash and older. Those are not running anymore. So I had to bring those back, and you can see that there's a span between the 45 and the 53 where they had some other miners that were also taken offline because they were just old. So those got added in back for operation. I didn't add anything else for April there, and those were running, I'm guessing, maybe like 20 dadays. Not sure exactly how long they were running, but that's kind of on average what I do, unless we have some concrete information on it. Otherwise, they were running 28 days roughly, 28 days and a quarter during the month here, which was pretty good. It got us to 8.817 million, and that coincides with that, and we gave them a little bit of revenue from the transaction fees as well on that one. Going up here, based on that information, if we take that information times the 12 months going forward, I'm between 511 and 766, right? With a P of 15, their growth is getting much better. And things like that. Looking backwards, the last 3 quarters in the current quarter that we just finished up which was Q1. I'm in between 507 and 760, so still, they're $1.84. I think they're still way undervalued, but why are they still way undervalued? A couple reasons. Majority of the operations are not in the United States. I think that's hampering possibly their growth by investors, possibly. The other reason is they have recently been domiciled or became domiciled in the United States and Texas. That should help a little bit there. And the third reason is their cost to mine Bitcoin has been relatively high here. And that's, you can see that here as of end of December, they were around 78,000 for one Bitcoin to be mined. That's really, really high. So they need to bring that down, and the way to do that is to bring in more machines to offset other costs as well. Whether it's general administrative overhead, payroll, all those things, right? You bring that stuff down, and then things look much, much better, or should look much better. And we see that with other miners that are getting to scale as their exahash grows, their revenues grow, their other costs for general administrative, other things become a much smaller percentage of the overall revenue there. So they need to do that as well. So those are the kind of reasons why I think they might be so undervalued right now. Can they turn those things around? This they can turn around. The US-based thing, I think that's also going to be kind of worked out itself. We need to obviously see their quarterly results. I'm guessing they're not going to be great for them for Q1, but they should be improving here going forward as they build out more and install more hash rate going forward. All right, so that is it on that one. And yeah, like I said, I wouldn't have used that one picture, but that's just me. Not the best optic, I guess you could say, on it. Other than that, that is it for Hive here. They just got to continue to grow, build out, cut the costs as best they can, and continue to do what they do. All right, finally, we're just going to take a quick look at Tera Wolf here. As you guys know, Tera Wolf no longer provides their monthly operational updates, so I don't really track them, but I just wanted to kind of go over this. I know a lot of people are still invested in them, plus they don't provide a lot of updates recently, so we don't know what's going on here. So I just wanted to see what's going on there with them, how do they do, and things like that. And here's what we got. So revenue was $34,400,000 there. It's down from the $42 million. Cost of revenue exclusive of depreciation was $24 million. That's almost a double from where it was last year at this time. And then cost of revenue as a percentage was 71%, so that's high. 34% was last time. Obviously, we had the halving event. Network hash rate has gone up, difficulty has gone up. All that stuff obviously takes a toll on it all. And they haven't kept up with the network hash rate growth that well, so that's part of the reason also. Going down here, power cost per Bitcoin was $66,084 compared to $15,000 in Q1, reflecting the halving, rising network difficulty, and short-term power price volatility from polar vortex. Well, that polar vortex was basically there with them for about 6 months because they had the same high number per coin, or power cost per coin, last quarter as well. So they've been in a polar vortex for a long time. They are just getting higher electricity prices for some reason. I don't know why. But that's maybe possibly why they're transitioning more into the HPC deals, right? They're still working on that. That stuff's progressing as well. So we talked about that over here. What else was it? Okay, here we go. This is not good. A new 200 million ATM at the market. Common equity offering program to replace the existing ATM facility. So they're going to be diluting some more. And then a refreshed authorization for 200 million common stock repurchase program, providing continued flexibility to return capital to shareholders when appropriate. Okay, I think this is BS. I don't think they might do a little bit, but they're not pulling $200 million and buying shares back. They did that when they got the convertible notes. Yes, that is true. They bought back, what was it, some $30 million worth of stock or something like that. But other companies have other companies have done the same thing when they got the convertible notes. They bought back some shares. But yeah, 200 million. I don't even know why they put this out there. They're in growth mode. They're trying to get things done. It was the same thing when they talked about doing possibly dividends. I'm like, there's no way in hell they're doing dividends. These companies are in growth mode. You don't do a dividend when you're in growth mode. You do a dividend when you have nothing better to do with your capital. These guys have plenty of things to do with their cash. Spend it on growing the company, getting infrastructure, buildings, things like that. That's where you want to put your money, but not into some of this stuff. I think this is more fluff for retail than anything else. Retail sees this. I was like, oh, they're going to buy $200 million worth of shares back. No, that's not going to happen there. Going down here into their financials here really quick. Here, current assets down from last year, 218 million, but still not bad there. Overall, total current assets was down to 230 million from 281. Property and plant went actually up to 509 million, so that's actually pretty good, right? They're increasing their value there. Total assets did increase here to 841 million from 787, so that's good, and that's mainly based on property, plant, equipment. And what else do we have here? That was a sizable increase. That was basically it. That's the thing that kind of increased there. Their liabilities-wise, liabilities increased to 54 million from 24. Accrued construction liabilities, small increase, about 3 million or so, to 19.5 million. That's not bad. Current portion of deferred rent liability, 31 million. Okay, they're paying rent for that place. Total current liabilities, 120 million. That's a sizable increase from 51. And what else? Deferred rent liability, net of current portion is 58. We didn't have that last time around. Convertible notes, right, 488 million. So that's going to increase everything here. So 670 million compared to 543 million. What is that? An increase of approximately 130 million or so on that one. Going down here, total liabilities and stockholder equity, 841 from 787, so that's not bad. That's actually pretty good. And then revenues here. Revenues, like I said, were down quite a bit, 34.4 from 42. Cost, talked about that already, 24.5 million from 14.4. What else? This is kind of insane here. Selling general administrative expense, 46 million now compared to 12 million in the prior quarter. What the heck is going on there? I don't get it. Any other business that's not publicly listed would be out of a business. Would be out of business right now. They'd be bankrupt. They couldn't do it. So yeah, I mean, you got 24 million in revenue and you're spending 46 million on. I don't get it. What else we have here? Depreciation, about the same from last year, and then total cost of expenses was 94 million compared to 44 million. Basically a double, a little bit more than a double there. Operating loss, 59 million from, they had a loss of 2.3. They were doing actually better last year than they are right now. Interest expense came down, which is good. And then what else do we have here? Loss before income tax and equity and net income of investees was 61 million negative there. Net loss 61.4. They lost 16 cents per share. So yeah, a lot of things are going in the opposite direction than what we thought, but they are working to build out the sites for Core 42. And they did state here, I thought I marked it down, maybe I didn't mark it down, but I thought I marked it down where they're planning on getting that energized by, or at least a portion of it getting that energized by the end of the second half year, and majority of it by the end of 2025 here as well. Maybe I didn't mark that down, but they do have that as well. Let me see, these programs are flexibility. Where is this at? What is liquidity, first quarter gap? Nope. I thought I saw it over here someplace. Well, nonetheless, they talked about it here. They talked about the returning the 33 million to shareholders by doing the stock buyback there last quarter. Management commentary. Yeah, I don't know. It's in here someplace. I can't find it right now, but it's in there. Trust me. So that's good, right? Once they start getting revenue from Core 42, that should help with everything else that we're seeing, at least right now. But yeah, we'll see how they do and how they go forward as well, as far as getting other additional customers potentially for those sites. But man, those electricity costs are way, way high, and so I don't blame them why they might have stopped reporting the monthly production updates. Okay. All right, that's it. I don't have a spreadsheet for them anymore, like I said, because they don't provide monthly updates. So we'll call it a day here and get into your guys' Q&A and see what you guys have to say on all this stuff here. And we'll call it a day. So as always, spreadsheets that you guys have seen are available to Patreon members. Link for that is down in the description if you want to join, a couple bucks a month, and that's it. That's my sales pitch. Let's get into Q&A here and call it a day. It's going to be a nice weekend. It's going to be nice and warm where I'm at. It's going to be in the 70s and maybe close to 80s over the weekend. It's nice today. I want to do a little yard work as well, and then I'm going to be busy later on anyways. But let's get into Q&A. As always, if you guys could preface the questions with a question mark or a Q, I would appreciate it. I'm going to scroll up here. Doesn't look like we have a lot of questions or anything like that. Let's see. Robbie Rose says, good week. Yeah, it was actually a pretty good week for the miners and Bitcoin itself. All right, Frederick's got a question here. What will it take retail to regain confidence in the miners as BTC proxy going forward? Just pushing 100,000 BTC is clearly not enough. I think we need 100,000 as support, but is that enough? No, that's not going to be enough. We need the miners to go, or Bitcoin to go at least, I'm guessing, north of 125,000, close to 150,000. At that point, the miners should, by all accounts, pump at that point. But yeah, I mean, they were beaten down here this past, I would say 3-4 months from the beginning of the year. A lot of them came down 60-70%, while Bitcoin only went down 31-32%, whatever it was. Minor correction on Bitcoin, which we have seen historically. So miners need to reverse that trend, and they have been kind of reversing that a little bit here on some days. On other days where Bitcoin is kind of flat, they're going down 2, 3, 4, 5% still. So it's not a lot of I would say not a lot of people optimistic about Bitcoin's future potential as far as where it goes. And on any sign of weakness, they just dump on the miners for some reason. Could be the algos as well. Not sure. All right. Do you expect miners to 3x BTC is 150, 160 as the convexity of the miners go up? I do expect them to, that would be 50%, right? So I would expect the miners to do at least 50% growth, if not to the 2 or 3x, right? Especially as they continue to grow and do well, the revenues are going to be getting much better. And as long as the network hash rate doesn't go too crazy up in that time frame, those should bode well for the miners. I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name, but I'm sorry. Hassana, I can't do it. Hassan, I can't, I'm sorry. I'm just going to call you HB, sorry. Hi Seb, can you please tell us what is the current all-in cost to mine Bitcoin for Bitfarms? Bitfarms, I'm waiting for them to report their quarterly results. That's coming up next week, I believe. Here it is. Yeah, Bitfarms is reporting May 14th, along with IREN, and Bitdeer is reporting May 15th. So we'll get that data then. So we'll look at it. But it's going to take me a little while to get all that data. They might report it, what their all-in cost is. But we'll figure it out based on those numbers next week, at least. We'll have something to go by at that point. Okay. All right. God's Will asks a question here. Hi, Seb. Would you say the bull run has begun? It definitely looks like it. As long as Bitcoin can maintain 100,000 and go from there, it's going to look much better. If it goes to 110, 115,000, then yes. But the reversal that we've seen here recently is very, very nice to see. So I'm still bullish, in the next 6 to 9 months for Bitcoin. I think we're going to have a very nice rally potentially. We're seeing more and more adoption. We're seeing, the exchanges, OTCs, being short on Bitcoin. Well, not short, like they don't have enough Bitcoin. The amount of Bitcoin that's stored with them is getting lower and lower. So that's a good sign there as well. All right, let's see here. CR says, hi Seb, greetings from Ireland. A green day, which was nice to see. Absolutely, yeah. Hope you have a great weekend there. All right, Maxi's got a question here. Marapool in the past days is weird. They had some days with 16 BTC production per day, May 6th. Today they were down again. Seems they are boosting and shutting down. Time-wise, does this make sense? Well, on the pool, it's also based on luck, right? So if all things were equal, they should get a percentage of the mining rewards there as it is. But sometimes you'll see where they, do really well, and that's a lot of times based on luck, right? If you're miners, you got a bunch of miners, they got 200,000 plus miners. One of those miners gets that algorithm or that block reward there, and then another one from them recently gets it. Well, that's going to boost your production there. But on average, it should average out to be whatever their network hash rate percentages wise. So if it's at 5%, 6%, whatever it is, they should be averaging about that much in Bitcoin production roughly. But sometimes they do get more lucky, and sometimes they get a little bit less lucky and unlucky basically. So that's the reason for that. It's never going to be exact right percentage of what they're supposed to get. Chris is saying Cleanspark was shorted again until it came back up. How long can this last? Yeah, I mean, it was up nicely. It was up, 12, 14%, whatever it was, and then it got beat down to like 0.5, 0.3% in the green during the day, and then it came back up. How long can the shorts last? That can last pretty long, actually. But I think as Bitcoin goes up higher, 120, 125,000, 150,000, the writing's going to be on the wall for the shorts. I think at that point they might start to cover, or they might actually start covering earlier, just so they're not going to be losing on it potentially. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on the shorts as well. We'll see how they're doing. Recently, the shorts have been increasing here, even though the miners have bottomed out. We're about 2 weeks delayed on that information. So we'll see possibly next week or the following week where they stand it at the end of April for short interest. Okay. Isaac says, Cleanspark's still terrible. They released their numbers earlier today. I haven't checked it, but hopefully they stopped diluting. Yeah, they haven't been diluting at all since like December or November of last year. They basically stated that they have enough cash to do that. They're actually selling Bitcoin right now from their production to fund their growth and operations. So they stated they don't even have an ATM right now, I don't believe. So they should not be diluting at all this year. It's my understanding there. Max, you got a question. One more question on Mara. Have you had a chance to listen to the conference call today as you told us yesterday? Was there something special? What made them go up 10% today after moderate Q1 results? I did not get a chance to listen to it. That's one of my things to do over the weekend. I just got busy, and then I'm going to be busy later on tonight, so it's going to be tough. but I do want to listen to it. The only thing I can think of is right now their valuation is just crazy. If you look at the amount of HODL that they have, that's basically their market cap right there. Where is the other part of their operations, their assets that they have there? Everything, I mean, include the assets, the land, the sites that they have, everything else, that's not being included in the pricing of it. So I think maybe things are, or maybe investors are at least starting to realize that they're just undervalued as it is right now, and they're definitely getting a bump on that. And plus, if you look at where Bitcoin is right now compared to where it was at the end of Q1, they're already up, like I think on the FSB rules, up, I saw somebody post like $1 billion already up on it. So that could be an impact of it also. CJ says, a nice day for once. We get these every once in a while. It wasn't a great day. It was an okay day for the miners, right? Some miners were actually in the red. But overall, it hasn't been a bad week. DAS Market Stats here says, hey, Seb, I'm up 33% on 1,100 shares of Griffin today. Should I sell and move funds to Cleanspark? Yeah, Griffin, I don't know what's going on with Griffin. I don't pay attention to them. I know that they were one of the smaller miners. I know they got beat down quite a bit as well. They had a change in CEOs there recently in the last, I would say, 6 months or so. Other than that, I don't know what's going on with them as far as anything else. Let's see. JP says, Cleanspark did stop diluting. Yes, that is correct. Tobias has a question here. Is it possible for miners to do a fast comeback from here and be fairly valued like 2 or 4x from here if Bitcoin passes all-time high? Well, all-time high is 109,000, right? So that's not too much gain there. I think Bitcoin would have to go up higher than that. We have seen the network hash rate go up and the difficulty increase because of it. So that typically means that the miners are generating less unless they are outpacing network hash rate growth with their own self-exahash increases. So that has to be taken into account also. But I would think if Bitcoin gets to 125, 150,000, the miners should start, getting close to where they possibly should be, which is kind of like a 2 or 3x from where they are right now. But we will see. All right, what else we got here? Kevin's got a question here. Has your selling strategy changed given recent price action? I don't sell. I hodl. I dollar cost average in. I wasn't able to do dollar cost average in the last 6 weeks, unfortunately, 6 to 8 weeks. But I am looking to buy more as we get into the summer, possibly in June. I'm hoping to start buying again. Love Guru, thank you so much for that. Yeah, we definitely need more likes. How many likes do we have here? I don't even know. 33 likes. We got 82 people watching. Let's see. Mawra is announcing selling their hodl position soon to keep the lights on. They'll dilute more than, I think they'll dilute, use the ATM, things like that to keep the lights on. They've done that historically, but we'll see. David says, I am really disappointed with IREN's price action. I'm slowly giving up and questioning big guys. Let it ride. BTC almost at all-time high end. This is hovering around $7 per share. Yeah, but there's a lot of good things with IREN, right? Megawatts that they have available, megawatts that could be possibly used for HPCI. That's a big question there. They're also one of the best operators right now when it comes to overall operations for Bitcoin mining and the cost to mine Bitcoin. They're like the lowest as it is. So they have a lot of profitability already. As Bitcoin goes up in value, they should get repriced on them. They got beaten down because of their ambitions for HPC-AI. So any miner that was talking about HPC-AI or anything towards that, they got pumped last year. But this year they got beaten down more so than like the pure play miners, like what we saw with Cleanspark. Cleanspark only went down, just a little bit over double digits, like 10, 15% down from the beginning of the year, whereas some of the other miners went down 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%, especially some of the ones that were in HPC-AI. All because of, DeepSeek, or whatever they're calling it. DeepSeek came out right from China. That kind of spooked the markets. Then you had stories from Microsoft that they're canceling some contracts and projects for further data center growth, right? So that kind of spooked the market as well there, and that kind of brought those miners down. All right. Brett says, Seb, imagine if you had just bought spot BTC anywhere around 20K instead of these turd miners. I do have BTC at a much lower cost than that. But yeah, let's see. Bitcoin was around 15,000 when I was still buying the miners then. Yeah. So I could have gotten into Bitcoin at 15,000. You're right. Right. So, but I diversified Bitcoin and the miners, thinking the miners would outperform, and they did to a certain extent, depending on when you got into them. Right. Nobody gets the bottom perfectly, but if you got in January of 2023 or late December of 2022, and a lot of these guys did outperform Bitcoin to when Bitcoin peaked at 73,000 last year. The first time around, some of the miners were up like 1,000%. Bitcoin was only up at that point, I think, was it 400, 500%? So they did outperform to a certain extent, but it's just getting that timing it is the difficult part, I guess you could say. Would you say Marathon is the king? As far as, I would say they're king of HODL. Operations, I would say that's questionable. They need to improve on operations still. They have gotten better there. They also have a pretty high cost to mine also. I'd like to see that come down. They still have quite a few sites that are hosting their machines for them that they don't own, but the ones that they do own are much better. I'd like to see them maybe buy some more sites that they're hosting machines at, or move those machines to their own sites if they can, so where they're not paying a higher electricity fee for those. But they're definitely a juggernaut, that I would say. Okay. All right, let's see. Have you ever considered looking at Canon Inc? Yeah, I do track them, see how they're doing. I know that they make their own miners. They're also mining, and I think they might be doing some hosting as well. But I don't think they provide the monthly updates. That's one of my requirements to follow a miner, is to have that every month. And let's see. What is this selling strategy going to be? At what point for IREN and Cleanspark will you start selling? Just trying to understand your strategy. Originally, I was thinking that Bitcoin gets to 100,000 was going to be the starting point where I start selling, but the miners didn't do crap last year. So now it's going to be probably around 150,000, 160,000 around there. I'm going to see where the miners are at. And if they're performing the way that they have been in last year, I may just kind of sell down out of these guys here, unless we starting to see these guys pump. But it's going to be a slow withdrawal process. It's going to be 5% here, 5% there, selling into the strength as the miners do go up here. Okay. All right. Do you see IREN at $20 in 2025? I think it's possible for them. Right, if they get a good story on HPCI deal or something like that, stock's off to the races. That could be one way. The other way would be Bitcoin getting to closer to 200,000. I think that would be enough to pump it to beyond $20 even at that point. Okay. Didn't Wolf say they weren't going to dilute last quarter and wanted to focus on long-term shareholder value? Now they are pulling ATM again. Yeah, I mean, I've heard this story before from them. Last time I heard the CEO talk about how they're not going to dilute to pay off the debt. What did they do? They diluted to pay off the debt, which is fine. I wanted them to pay off the debt. But don't go out there saying you're not going to do something and do the opposite of it. It's just, it looks poor. Poor on their part for doing that. But again, it's one of those things where watch what they do and not what they say, I guess, in a lot of sense. But yeah. All right. I've come up to all your guys' questions here, looks like. I got about maybe 15 more minutes or so, but I think we're going to call it a day here. And yeah, we'll call it a day. We're going on almost, what are we going on? Almost an hour. Almost, so that's not too bad. We covered quite a bit of things. We'll get back into the swing of things on Sunday. We'll cover the miners, how they performed against Bitcoin this past week. That should be good. We'll look at maybe any metrics that we can on the miners. We still have 2 miners that need to report their operational update. Those are remaining. I think it's Core and Hut 8, actually. If I look at it here, let me see, screen. Yeah, I'm still waiting on Core to report. I don't have their numbers for Bitcoin mined and Hut 8. So maybe we'll get those early next week. When we do, we can do other metrics and things like that. But other than that, I wish you guys a great weekend. Hopefully Bitcoin doesn't do anything crazy over the weekend. It stays kind of flat. I'd like to see that. I don't want to see any huge Monday gaps happening on the CME futures for it. So hopefully an easy weekend, and then they can pump on Monday again if it wants to. All right, but that's it. Love you all. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Until then, bye.